Welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thank you very much for tuning in and choosing my channel and hopefully enjoying my exploration of the wide world of pens. And I decided to stir a little controversy, which I really, not what I want to do, but I just find that some sanity needs to be brought to the discussion. And I felt that these 6 pens would help us do that. This one here at the bottom is very recognizable. Yes, it's a Jinhao 80 with the brush stainless steel clip. And here's one, all stealthy, including a black nib. Here's one in red, very deep red, with a gold clip-in trim. And here's one in avocado green, and I must say they nailed that color. And here's 2 Jinhao 35s. I actually got one of them. I didn't expect to get it because of the nib that it had. Yep, Doug talked about this nib and reviewed it. It's a Calligraphy Nib. And I actually ordered some more of these. Here's how they're listed on AliExpress. And I'm really looking forward to writing with this nib. So those are the pens. And they all take that same style nib with the wings on it that fit on to the section and feed. So I thought I'd start with these 2 extremely stealthy pens. Definitely all black. Probably wouldn't be accepted into Black Pen Society because they're not expensive, but I like them. Snap-off caps, and they're very secure. People ask questions about that, and they're as secure as any snap-off cap is going to be. And we'll see a completely stealthy pen. Yes, I put a Lamy Broad nib into the 80, but here's the original nib in the 35. And this finish is not slippery at all. Very nice to the hand. The silver pen is a little slippery, but we may not be writing with that one. Who knows? But I just think it's impressive for a few dollars that Jinhao makes these 2 very impressive stealthy pens. And you can hear that click. And here's 2 of the 80s in colors. And both of these colors are fairly good. You know, not a green color I think I have in any other pen, and I may not want it in any other pen. The red color I think is very nice, deep, maybe maroon, I don't know. You might call it that. I think it's nice they put a same colored plug in the bottom of the barrel to match the trim. We pop off the caps and we'll see that gold theme continuing throughout the pen. Yep. Somebody talked about the fact that you can, if you don't put it in straight, you can get that nib caught up. We'll look inside the cap to see what that's all about. But again, this also has that interesting look to it. So I'm going to pop that nib back into this pen. I know it's a slippery section. You can see I removed it. And I removed it by using a dental tool to pry it away. And it took a lot of effort. I did it slowly as to not mar or mark anything. So the nib and feed still in good shape. I'll be interested to see how that nib writes. What ink should I use? So I bought both of these pens on eBay. Here's the eBay listing for the Jinhao 80. And here's a listing for the Jinhao 35. 35, I got 2 pens delivered for under $10, and they're good pens. Good writers, dependable, extra fine nibs, but that's the nature of the beast, and you buy a lot of these pens. And the 80 I also bought on eBay. It was slightly more costly. But both of these pens are available on Amazon. Here's some Amazon listings that I found. And these are the ones with Prime delivery. So if you order it, you get it in a day or 2, which is great. I mean, and you can also find listings on Amazon that come from China, so you have to be careful if you want something delivered quickly. And I haven't noticed much price difference between the Prime products that come quickly and the pens that are shipped from China. So look around if you're interested. And I like these pens just for what they are. They're pens. They're ways of putting ink on paper. They're reliable, classic looks and design. And maybe avocado green may not be your classic, but certainly the other colors could fit into that category. So if you like these pens, go get some. Don't worry about what they look like or resemble or where they're made. If you enjoy writing with them, that's the important part. So now we're in dark mode. Let's take a look inside that cap, and we'll see something similar to what we saw in the 80. Just a little ledge in there, which I'm assuming lines up to that section and probably the end of the section, and that's where that snap fit comes in. Looks like there's just a press rivet that holds that top finial in place. That includes the clip. I'm not going to have time to test out drying out, but I have my doubts as to how that's going to hold up. So you know I flush and clean everything before I ink it up. And this is the one that had the calligraphy nib in it, and when I did my flush, ink came out. So much to my amazement, maybe they actually tested that nib. Blown away for that price of the pen and that nib for that personal testing. I have the nibs also soaking in here too. So we're going to clean out all the sections of all the new pens before we ink anything up. So I'll give you a link to my full review of the pens when I first got these 80s. But we're going to use this one just to exemplify some of the main engineering and design features. Number one, a metal insert into the barrel. To accommodate this metal insert into the section, to me that's a quality sign. Nice threads, screws in very easily. Should have a long life. The converter is about as low end as you get. Minimal amount of pieces, no metal collar, whatever, and you need to pop this out, which you can do, but I'm not going to do right now. The other thing that's nice is the converter fits very snug, very secure. So from that viewpoint, it works well, and that converter is going to hold as much ink as any converter can. And you'll assemble it. We're going to take a look inside that cap and see if we can see that clutch system that's used in capping the pen. Now we're in some dark mode, as much as we can get with our blackout blinds, and it's nice and sunny fall day here in New Jersey. We had some torrential rains, but they're gone. So play the LED, give you another look at that color. And let's look inside the cap. And we'll see it appears to be a plastic liner. There's a number of steps in there. And I can see where if you put this in at an angle, it gets caught up on those steps, but it's like every other instrument. You got to learn how to use it properly. And if you go in straight in the middle, no problem. But again, if you're sloppy, in a hurry, not thinking about it, yep, you might be able to do damage to the nib. What do you expect from a couple dollar pen? And from looking inside the cap, I don't know what else they could have done differently to minimize that and still have it seal up well. And these pens do write well. You can let them set for a while and just pop the cap and write away. So I did a full review on the 80, so we'll do my quick details on the 35. Here's some dimensions. And from the looks of it, pop-off cap, secure. It rotates a little bit, but there's some fair resistance, so it doesn't spin freely. And from this design with that tapered barrel, one would expect it to post. And it does post, and it requires a little push to get it to post securely, but it does. And it does change the weight of the pen. I'm not a fan of the balance with it posted. I would obviously write with this unposted. And as you can see, it takes a little bit of effort to get the cap off, and I don't see any markings from the posting, so there's probably a plastic liner in there that actually grips it. It feels okay in the hand. Again, that section is on the slippery side. We'll give you the dimensions of the section. And this calligraphy nib is certainly an unusual nib. Let's see how it puts down that Monteverde Garnet ink. I actually had to use these pliers to remove the cap. Once I got it started, then it was good. People talk about, how do you fill a pen? Well, here we go. Interesting color. You take this, you put the piston all the way down. You insert it up so that whole nib is covered. And as you draw up ink, it's going to get lower, so you got to make certain that nib always stays covered with ink. And that's the first fill, but of course I do 3. Even though I've flushed everything with soapy water and then clean water, I'm now doing an ink flush. To me, it's just part of good pen hygiene. And we see that last fill comes up, and we got a decent fill, a little bit of cavitation. I pulled it up a little bit faster than I should have, but it'll be good enough for what we're doing. We'll clean it off and start writing. That's certainly an intense color. Yeah, not really any shading, very little. But you do get a lot of line variation with this nib, the way that it's ground and writing in script. So if you do vertical, you're going to get an extra fine line. If you do vertical horizontal, you get the same distance of the line. If you drop down to your normal writing angle, which is about 45 degrees, as you can see, the downstrokes get wider and the horizontal get much wider. And that's typical of a Naganati grind on the nib. And I went through that in great detail with the Hung Dion pen I reviewed that had a similar grind to the nib. So I'll give you a link in my description if you wanted to go into more detail about this grind and other nibs that have the grind. It also has a little bit of sharpness to it, which I think is evident from, you can see there's a nice clean line. And I don't usually do reverse, but amazingly it writes, and that is a super extra fine line. And it does get a little ink starved, not something I would ever do, which I usually don't ever do with a nib, but the way that is ground, I thought it might be interesting. And if I wanted to work on that, I'm certain I could get reverse writing to give a little bit more ink flow and have it work better. So this is not a rating of the pen, it's more a rating of the nib, but you know, so I give the nib a 9.1. It doesn't rate any higher because it just is not as pleasant to write with as some of the other similar grinds that I've experienced, but it does have a sharpness to it. So again, it depends upon what you're in the mood for and what you like. So that's the nib. And I'd rate the pen an 8.5. It's okay. It's an everyday carry, knock around metal pen. And the black one, I would rate a 9.0 because the section works well and it's very stealthy and more of a unique look than this polished silver one, silver colored one. So again, at the end of the day, what's it all about? It's just a pen. It's always ever been just a pen. The pen, as all pens, have some resemblance to other pens, some of them more than others. And they might sometimes say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. There's a whole bunch of other phrases you can use, but I think the vitriol comments that we see a lot in social media are not necessarily based on the pen or a pen that somebody has written with, but a feeling, an emotional feeling that they have regarding the source of the pen. Not going to happen on my channel. It's a pen. I review the pen. I talk about the pen. I let you make a decision whether that pen is something you would like to write with. That's what they're here for. So enough editorializing. I want to thank all of you for watching. And this nib certainly resembles a paintbrush as much as any other nib I've ever used. I hope this video finds all of you safe, healthy, and happy, enjoying your pens, regardless of where they're made or what they might resemble. Just enjoy writing, enjoy putting ink down. I do. We've reached the end, and we're going to say bye. Have a great day. Have a great pen day. Puts down ink fairly nicely.